So 4.7 is around the corner and we are getting new weapons as a result. Me being the person who likes to do calculations, I want to briefly talk about them. Who else can use it, and how competitive are they compared to other options? This is going to be your speedrun info dump, so here's a quick list of disclaimers when it comes to my gameplay analyses or calculations. Take a quick pause if you need. And to wrap it off, social media links and music credits are down below as well. Alright, no dilly-dallying this time, let's get started. First up, we have Clorinde's signature weapon, Absolution. At level 90 R1, it has a 674 base attack with a 44.1% crit damage bonus. For its passive, it further increases crit damage by 20%, making the new total 66.1%. And whenever Bond of Life increases, the user deals 16% more damage for 6 seconds, max 3 stacks for a total of 48%. Obviously, Clorinde can use it. Fire pistol shots, increase Bond of Life, and use her special skill,
Impale the Knight!
Using it on her is no problem at all. But let's talk about alternative users. The others who can fully use this weapon include... Yeah, in terms of full usage, Absolution is not viable for anyone else. So, when we compare to other characters, we can only really utilize the crit damage stats. And that's not a bad bonus. Usually 66% crit damage is limited to a 608 base attack weapon, so having the same bonus on a 674 base attack weapon is actually pretty good. So I took a quick look at 3 5-star sword users who primarily use attack scaling: Ayaka, Ayato, and Keqing. We'll just explore basic calculation comparisons to give you a general idea on where it stands with those characters. On Ayaka, I compared her burst damage with a few weapons. Mist Splitter is going to be about 15% better than Absolution. No brainer there, it's her signature weapon. But even more so, if you R5 Finale of the Deep, which is a free-to-play weapon, it actually does around 7% better than Absolution. For Ayato, I use his normal attack string to compare notes. Haran is 22% better than Absolution. Once again, no brainer, it's a signature for him. But an R5 Finale of the Deep is only around 0.8% better, which makes it comparable at least. And if you're a BP player, Black Sword provides a 6% boost in normal attack damage. Finally, on Keqing, I used the entirety of her burst window, and I added a few aggravate procs as well. Mist Splitter is around 19% better, with an R5 Lion's Roar being around 10% better. So what's the main takeaway from this? Well, fortunately, high base attack and crit damage is useful on a lot of characters, so it's not the same as getting the strawberry or matcha donuts. But without a character to use its life bond mechanic, a lot of free or light spending options are going to be highly competitive. In short, if you're going for Alhaitham's weapon and you happen to get Clorinde's, you're not going to have a horrible time with it, it's still usable. But I wouldn't recommend actively trying to get that weapon unless you already have Clorinde. Obviously, official information on Clorinde's numbers may or may not be out by the time of this video, so I'm not going to show comparisons on her alternate options. From what we know about her from the special program, anything that buffs normal attack or general damage will be good choices. So that means things like Mist Splitter or Haran for 5-star swords, and maybe Black Sword, Lion's Roar, or Finale of the Deep for a 4-star option. And that's your quick rundown on the new sword. So let's wrap it up with the new bow. Cloudforged is the new event-exclusive weapon coming in 4.7. At R1 level 90, it has a 510 base attack with a 165 EM substat. When the user's energy decreases, EM will increase by 40 for 18 seconds. Max 2 stacks, making the EM bonus 80, and additionally, we are going to be able to R5 this. So, following the assumed doubling rule, the full bonus would be 160 EM. Now, with this being an event weapon, we can make the assumption that it's not really the best option for long-term players, as you'll probably have gotten better options by now. But for new or free-to-play players, this can be a good weapon for EM scaling bow users like Tighnari, Kale, Fischl, etc. The main caveat is that energy draining doesn't come naturally, especially trying to do it twice in quick succession. The only character we have right now is Sethos, who is the first character who drains his own energy little by little. This makes him our prime and honestly only candidate for the new weapon. The issue I mentioned earlier also applies to Sethos. If you have spent money on BP or managed to get a few premium gacha options, Sethos honestly has better choices. For example, the weapon on his splash art, Scion of the Blazing Sun. It has a nice crit rate buff, and it also buffs charge attack damage, which is a mechanic Sethos primarily focuses on. If you already have a copy of Scion, then you wouldn't have to build Cloudforged. With the different ways you can get EM, damage percent and crit is just a bit more valuable. 5-star options you have gotten will also be better. Amos Bow, for example, is a standard 5-star weapon, and that can buff charge attack damage, and even though Sethos is more of an EM scaler, the attack bonus is still useful. Hunter's Path, on the other hand, has innate EM scaling mechanics, possibly making it Sethos' best in slot weapon. Now, comparing premium options to free ones is apples to oranges, but let's do apples to apples next. For anyone that was here in 3.7, we have a free-to-play option, Ibis Piercer. It grants the same 160 EM bonus, and you don't even need to drain your energy to do it. Granted, if you care about min-maxing, then Cloudforged might be a little bit better, since it provides more EM to Sethos, whereas Ibis Piercer is more attack scaling. But if you need a weapon in general, you can just slap that on him and be done with it. Even though this weapon isn't as good, I'm still going to explore the alternative options and see how we can possibly use it. Technically speaking, anyone can use the weapon, granted you have two methods to choose from. One, the stacks aren't independent of each other. If you are using a character with a 12 or 15 second burst cooldown, you can gain the second stack in your second rotation and refresh it in order to max out the bonus. After all, with an 18-second duration, you have a pretty good window to work with. The second method is to use Shimenawa's Reminiscence. You drain 15 energy, which is 1 stack, and you quickly regain that energy back to 100% and fully drain it a second time by using your burst. Or, if your character isn't burst reliant at all, then you can just keep using your skill every 10 seconds to refresh the bonus. Honestly, I don't want to calculate the Shimenawa niche because that's incredibly tedious, but I'll at least look at this weapon on Tighnari because his burst is a 12-second cooldown. For comparisons, we'll be comparing Cloud with his signature weapon, as well as Ibis Piercer and Scion. From the chart we see, I found that Cloud would actually be like 3% better than Ibis. Once again, it's more of a min-maxing thing, but it is technically better. But comparing it to Hunter's Path and Scion, it's around 11 to 12% worse. Main takeaway from this: overall, a free weapon is still a free weapon. If you have nothing else, then yeah, it's a nice bow to add to your EM scaling characters. But if you have other options, those will likely be better. So that's just a quick rundown of these two weapons. I didn't want to do a super long video for this, just a short info dump to give you some general information. So let me know if you kind of like the shorter form or if you would prefer more in-depth analyses. Also, let me know in the comments if you're going to try to use these weapons, and if you do, who are you going to use it on? If you want more content, consider leaving a like and subscribing to support the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!